Senator Joe Nicola here with an update from the Missouri Senate for the week of Monday, January 26, which started off with our snowstorm that crossed the state. So the Capitol was shut down and there was no business here in the legislature. So we began on Tuesday. There's been very little action on the floor except for gubernatorial appointments, which has been filibustered by the Democrats for the last couple of weeks. So there's been no floor debate yet. Bills are going through committee, but they have not been placed on the calendar. Hopefully that'll happen in the next week or two, and then we'll start some debate and get some legislation passed through the Senate here. I was able to present my driver's license bill, which is a failure to appear piece of legislation this week in Transportation Committee. Problem that we've been having is in our cities, and this was brought to me by my city, one of the cities I represent, that with minor traffic violations, that a failure to appear in court or pay fines 2 different times, that they were unable to revoke driver's license. So if there's a failure to appear, if this piece of legislation were to pass, then we would be able to revoke driver's license, and then the driver would also be able to get a temporary driver's license so they can go to work and go to doctor's offices and things like that. So we've got that moving now, and there hasn't been a vote on it yet, but hopefully in the next week or two we'll have a vote on that. I'm the vice chair of Families Committee, so I was able to chair that committee this week. We had 2 pieces of legislation that went through that committee to here, but were not voted on yet. One piece was a born alive piece of legislation, so if a baby survives an abortion and they're still alive, that baby would be treated like any other human being and given emergency care. Sounds like a very common sense piece of legislation. I foresee that being able to be passed through. The other piece of legislation that came through the Families Committee was the SAFE Act had a 4-year sunset clause. The SAFE Act was a piece of legislation that prohibited minors, so those under 18, from getting puberty blockers or having any kind of a physical transgender type of surgery. And so that sunset expires next year, and this bill would just remove that sunset and make it permanent. One of the biggest things that kind of happened this week was the state of judiciary was scheduled to over in the House, and we were going to have a joint session between the House and the Senate. And because of the Supreme Court striking down one of the bills by one of our senators, it's Senate Bill 22, without just removing a provision that they saw unconstitutional, they just struck the entire bill down. And I haven't been here as long as others, but there's been some issues and problems with the Supreme Court with some overreach and getting into actually legislating and not just doing their job. So a few of the senators, myself included, were not happy with that. So we had planned to filibuster that meeting, but just before we went to the floor to begin that filibuster, the Speaker of the House canceled that meeting. So there was no state of the judiciary this week, but a few of us were able to stand up on the Senate floor and be able to voice our objections and our issues and our problems that we see with the judiciary. I appreciate you taking time to watch this video, and we'll be doing this every week to give a weekly update on what's happening here in the Missouri Senate from my perspective. So thanks again. God bless you. Have a great day.